Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. According to Samuel Luckhurst, Mauricio Pochettinho wants to join Manchester United now rather than wait until the summer. Pochettinho's representatives are in contact with Man United. Pochettinho is prepared to quit PSG to become Manchester United manager now. Pochettinho is unhappy in the French capital. Pochettinho has a full season left on his PSG contract. Manchester United should have got Mauricio Pochettinho after the sacking of Jose Mourinho, but the club decided to go with Solskjaer instead. I reckon Pochettinho would be the right manager for Manchester United, even though he's hardly won anything. Pochettinho is our number one choice. Our second choice is Erik ten Hag. Pochettinho is proven in the Premier League because he did endure a 5.5-year tenure with Tottenham. Analysing the vast majority of his tenure at Tottenham, Tottenham were competing in and out of the top four. In 2018, Pochettinho guided Tottenham to their first ever Champions League final. I think Tottenham made a big mistake sacking Pochettinho. And before Pochettinho managed Southampton, he wasn't at Southampton that long, but he still guided Southampton to their highest ever finish in the Premier League. So they're the clubs he's managed in the Premier League so far. At one point, Pochettinho managed Espanyol. Zinedine Zidane to Manchester United is off, because according to reports, Zinedine Zidane is not interested in taking over at Manchester United. He's not ready for the Premier League at the moment, and Zinedine Zidane is wanted by PSG. He said at one point last week that Zidane had pretty much agreed to take the France job, and it also said Zidane is not available until the summer, because it said he wants to take a break until then. And it said the other week that Zidane's wife was not attracted to the idea of living in Manchester. Zidane is managerless because he left Real Madrid in the summer. You've got to admire what he did at Real Madrid. He won a lot of trophies at Real Madrid. So reflecting on that, he's got a decent pedigree behind him. Real Madrid is the only club Zidane's managed so far. He's obviously never managed in the Premier League, so it would be good for him to come and experience the Premier League. You know, I thought Zidane's close relationships with Ronaldo and Varane would have persuaded him to join. Brendan Rodgers, you know, he's still being spoken about. Recently, Brendan Rodgers dismissed the links to Manchester United. He said, you know, I'm proud to be at Leicester. The other week, Rodgers was house hunting in Cheshire, so that stirred some suggestions up. And he did mention the other week that Brendan Rodgers was the favourite to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United, and the Manchester Evening News said that Man United are ready to trigger the clause in Brendan Rodgers' contract. And it said earlier on this season that Rodgers had already verbally agreed to become Manchester United's new manager, but his preference would be to wait until next season, as he's reluctant to leave Leicester midway through the season. Brendan Rodgers could be under some pressure at Leicester because Leicester have been very, very poor this season. I think they're lower than Man United in the league. So far at Leicester, Rodgers has won the Community Shield and the FA Cup. He's been in charge of Leicester for almost 3 years, and he's got a contract with them until 2025. I presume there's a lot of United fans that would like to see Erik ten Hag come in. Erik ten Hag has done a good job at Ajax. He's won a few trophies with them, and he's been at Ajax for 4 years. And Erik ten Hag is very good at developing young players. I think if he came to the Premier League, he'd replicate what he's done in his 4 years at Ajax. Enrique has also been spoken about as well. I think he's a former Barcelona manager. At the moment, Michael Carrick is the interim manager. It got announced yesterday that Carrick has taken over as the interim manager following the dismissal of Solskjaer. And obviously Man United are looking to appoint another interim manager until the end of the season. But obviously if we're to get Pochettinho, we don't need to get an interim manager. So that'd be very good news from a Man United perspective. Yesterday morning, Solskjaer was sacked by Manchester United as manager following the 4-1 defeat to Watford. Obviously, after the sacking, the club released a statement. Yesterday, Solskjaer gave his farewell interview, and he got emotional in the interview. I don't think the club really wanted to sack him, but it came to that point where they had no choice. Man United have only won 1 of their last 7 games in all competitions. Manchester United paid Solskjaer $7.5 million because in the summer he signed a 3-year contract with an option of a further year. The club should have never given him that contract. But Solskjaer was Manchester United manager for almost 3 years. I'm surprised he lasted that long, but the reason he lasted as long as he did is because he's a legend of the club. Disregarding him being a legend of the club, I can assure he would have been sacked a while ago. But despite Solskjaer getting sacked yesterday, all United fans still adore him. Reflecting on what he's done for the club, Solskjaer will always be a legend of Manchester United. He was a great player for the club. He endured 11 years as a player for Man United. He flourished under Sir Alex Ferguson's guidance. He had a proven pedigree as a player, did Ole, because he won a lot of trophies as a player, but unfortunately he had no proven pedigree as a manager. The club Solskjaer has managed in his managerial career, obviously managed the Man United reserve team for a couple of years. he managed Cardiff. His record at Cardiff was terrible. He got sacked from Cardiff because he got Cardiff relegated. Obviously managed Molde, enjoyed 2 spells at Molde. I think he won a few Norwegian titles with them, and of course he managed the Manchester United senior team. Solskjaer now wants to take a break from management, but I think at some point he will go back to Norway. And of course as well, he's welcome back at Old Trafford at any time. That got mentioned in the interview. But reflecting on our poor performances, Solskjaer was partly to blame because his tactics were questioned a lot, so too were his team selections. But on the other side of things, not all of the blame stemmed from Solskjaer. There was also players that had to take responsibility for those poor performances. And this season was Solskjaer's 3rd full season at Man United. And I did say at the start of this season that this season was going to be massive for him. Obviously, the pressure was on Solskjaer at the start of the season, reflecting on the signings we made in this year's summer transfer window. We made 4 signings in this year's summer transfer window. 3 of the 4 signings were major signings. And we spent around 141 million in this year's summer transfer window. Plus, the board backed Solskjaer very well in this year's summer transfer window. The Glazers backed him, Ed Woodward backed him, John Murtaugh, our director of football, backed him, and Darren Fletcher backed him. Ollie enjoyed 5 transfer windows when he was United manager. But Solskjaer was never capable of winning trophies as Manchester United manager. He didn't win a trophy as Manchester United manager. Man United have not won a trophy since 2017. That's nowhere near good enough to our standards. But the expectations were far too high for Solskjaer to exceed as Man United manager. And he was in a position that he should have never been in. Ollie got appointed in as the caretaker manager in December 2018, and obviously he did very well in that 3-month period as the caretaker manager. So obviously the club decided to give him the job on a permanent basis back in March 2019. And obviously when he got the job permanently, it started to go wrong. But there again, we still enjoyed some good periods, when he was permanent manager. But Ollie knew when he'd taken over at Manchester United, it was going to be a massive job. Not only a massive job, a difficult job as well, despite him knowing the club through thick and thin. Because Ollie was managing one of the biggest clubs in the world. When Solskjaer was Man United manager, he developed the youth well. He did make good signings as well when he was Manchester United manager. He signed 14 players. In the summer of 2019, he did recommend Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire in. In January 2020, he brought Bruno Fernandes in Igalo in on loan. In the summer of 2020, he brought Edison Cavani in, Donny van der Beek, Alex Telles, Amad Diallo and Facundo Pellistri. And of course, in this year's summer transfer window, he brought Sancho in, Varane, re-signed Ronaldo, and of course he brought Tom Heaton in. Spent over £400 million under the Solskjaer era. In Solskjaer's first full season, he got us to 3 semi-finals. He also got us a 3rd place finish. In his second full season, he got us to the EFL Cup semi-final, the FA Cup quarter-final and the Europa League final. That was Solskjaer's first major final as Man United manager, but unfortunately he didn't win it when he was manager. And of course, he got us a second place finish in his second full season. And when we had Solskjaer, Manchester United did go 29 games unbeaten away from home in the Premier League. We was far superior away from home in the league under Solskjaer than we was at home. Ollie also got rid of a lot of players when he was Man United manager. He loaned players out and he got rid of players permanently. But Solskjaer, the fourth permanent manager to be sacked since Ferguson, because since Ferguson we sacked David Moyes, sacked Louis van Gaal, sacked Jose Mourinho, and of course yesterday Solskjaer was officially sacked. And Man United are not really known as a sacking football club because we haven't got the structure to keep sacking managers. But you have got really, really good players at Manchester United. And the reason we haven't been getting the best out of a lot of the players is because they've been a team of individuals. They haven't been actually playing as a team. And of course, the players weren't playing under Solskjaer anyway. So hopefully when we get a new manager, the team will start to play. Man United should be winning the Premier League this season, or at least competing for the league, because Man United have got a title-winning squad. Man United have not won the Premier League since 2013. That's 8 years or so ago now. But Man United have won 20 titles and 13 of them are Premier League titles. But like I say, revert back to the players. Look who we've got. We've got the best player in the world overall in Cristiano Ronaldo. We've got Mason Greenwood. That's a talented player. Greenwood's out at the moment though with COVID. You've got Marcus Rashford. That's a talented player. At one point, Rashford was out with a shoulder injury for a while, and at one point he had to have an operation on his shoulder. He's done well in a few games since he's come back, but he's been poor in a few games as well. You've got Cavani, that's a good player. You've got Fernandes, that's a exceptional player. Don't forget, in the 4-1 defeat to Watford, Fernandes defended Solskjaer because Solskjaer, got abused from a lot of United fans. You've got Jadon Sancho, that's a good player overall, but Sancho's been poor for Manchester United so far, but hopefully under a new manager we'll get the best out of Sancho. And then you've got Donny van der Beek. That's a good player as well, but haven't had much of a perception on him at Manchester United because he hasn't really been given enough game time. Van der Beek made an impact when he came on against Watford. He scored. That was his second goal for the club. And he tried to make things happen and he got in some good positions. You've got Pogba, he's another good player as well. Not only a good player, he's an imperative player. Pogba, he's missing the rest of 2021. He's injured, Pogba. He suffered a thigh injury in France training earlier on in the season. Pogba may never play for the club again because it said earlier on this season that Man United are prepared to sell him in the January transfer window. And you've also got Luke Shaw. That's a good left back overall, but Luke Shaw's certainly not proven how good he can be so far this season. He's been terrible this season. He was far superior last season to how he has been so far this season. I'm sure under a new manager, Shaw will regain his form. Shaw's got a head injury at the moment and he is a doubt for the game against Villarreal tomorrow. So Telles might have to come in for Shaw against Villarreal. You've got Harry Maguire. That can be a good centre-half, but he hasn't really proven how good he can be at Man United. He hasn't had a lot of good games at Man United. He's had some, but not many. I think a lot of games he's been inconsistent. Maguire did get sent off against Watford, so obviously he's suspended now. I think he's got a 3-match ban, so he will be missing the Chelsea game next week. You seem to get the best out of Maguire when he's alongside Varane, but when he's alongside Bailly or Lindelof, you can't really seem to get the best out of him. Maguire's been even worse since he came back from that calf injury. You know, you've got Varane, that's a good centre-half as well, but Varane is out with a hamstring injury at the moment. He's out for another 2 to 3 weeks. That's 2 injuries now Varane's endured since he signed for the club, because earlier on in the season, Varane was out with a groin injury, and he was out with that groin injury for a few weeks. And you've got Eric Bailly, that's a good centre-half as well, but Bailly doesn't get regular game time, does he? He's only made, 3 appearances so far this season as Eric Bailly. Bailly lost his place in the team a while ago, obviously with the signing of Varane in the summer transfer window, and obviously Lindelof's been preferred to Bailly. Don't ask me why, because Bailly is a far superior centre-half to Lindelof. The element of concern about Bailly is injury prone, and you've got Bissaka that's very good defensively, but the attacking side of his game is very, very poor. And there's aspects of Wan-Bissaka's game that need to improve. And obviously you've got David De Gea, that's a very, very good goalkeeper. Got to give him credit, he's done really, really well so far this season. So there you go, there's good players at United. You know, we must have spent over £1 billion on players and that since Ferguson retired. Obviously players are going to be leaving Man United next year. You know, I think Martial's leaving next year. I think Mata's leaving next year. Cavani's leaving next year. Lingard's leaving next year. Van der Beek, I think, is leaving next year. Unless he gets more game time under a new manager, and then that'll persuade him not to leave. I think Matic is leaving next year. Good chance Pogba will leave. Tellez will leave, I think, next year. Jones and Bailly will leave. Dalot will leave. And obviously Dean Henderson's going out on loan, because Dean Henderson's already said that he wants to go out on loan. Dean Henderson doesn't get his opportunities now because De Gea reclaimed that #1 spot back. I was supposed to be doing my predicted 11 on this video for our game against Villarreal tomorrow, but I just wanted to give you some more news on Pochettinho. But yeah, on the next video I'll be giving you my predicted 11 for the game. So take care, God bless guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.